Hi folks, it's certainly been a while, hasn't it? There's been a little bit of a gap in my schedule for uploading recently, and that's because I've been working on a ton of side projects for one of my bands, one of the artists I do sessions for. Various little projects have sort of all come together at once, and I've had to deal with things one at a time. But now I'm back to work on my YouTube channel. The more observant among you may notice that there is a microphone present in frame this time around. The reason for this is twofold. The first being, if I'm completely honest, I just got sick of hiding it from you. The second and more important reason is that I believe the microphone sounds a bit better when it's closer. So there you go. Moving swiftly on from my technical changes in the video production process. To start things off again, I'm going to be asking myself a question. And I'm sure this is a question that some of you have asked yourselves, as well as maybe some people asking you. If, in this hypothetical situation, your house was on fire, and you had to grab one guitar and one guitar only, which guitar would it be? I realise some of you out there may only have one guitar, and that's cool. You've got an easy choice that way. But for someone like me who has a few, it might be a bit difficult, but in my case, it's not. You see, there's one guitar in my collection that I can always rely on. It ticks all my boxes, plays the way I want it to, and it never does me wrong. It doesn't look particularly remarkable or anything special, but I think that's part of its charm for me. And it's got a little bit of a fun story about how I picked it up, so let me tell you. The guitar I'm referring to, of course, is my 2013 Fender Deluxe Lonestar Stratocaster. I bought this guitar back in 2016, maybe 2015, I can't quite remember now. But I'd just moved to Leeds because I'd started working at the West Yorkshire Playhouse, now Leeds Playhouse, as a sound engineer. And on my route to work, while I walked through the hedgerow in Leeds in the centre, I noticed this very guitar hanging in a pawn shop window. And for anyone that's giggling, that's P-A-W-N. Get your mind out of the gutter. At that point in my guitar collection, I didn't actually own a single Fender Strat. Not one at all. I loved them, but I just didn't have one. I had other guitars like my Ibanez's or the parts caster I sort of built together out of bits with my brother. But the point is, there was never a Strat on the scene, and I wanted to change that. So walking past this thing almost every morning on my way to work really got me thinking, I need to try and get this guitar. I was a little worried about the fact that it might be sold before I could get it, because things got turned around pretty quickly in that shop. You didn't see guitars hanging in the window for long. It was going for sale for about 450 quid if I recall correctly, and I had another guitar in my collection that I just wasn't using anymore, which was my Ibanez JS100 Joe Satriani signature. I got a heck of a lot of use out of it when I first had it for the first, 3 or 4 years. But at that point in my life, it was just sitting in a guitar rack and gathering dust, not getting the love it deserves. So I thought, right, why don't I trade that in, send it to a potentially better home than mine, and get this guitar in the process. So I did just that. I traded in my Ibanez. I paid 100 quid on top to buy this guitar and took it home. And I was overjoyed. I finally had a genuine Fender Strat in my collection. But the journey didn't end there. These Deluxe Lonestar models from 2013 were factory fitted with wonderful pickups. You have a twin head humbucker here and 2 Texas Specials in the middle and neck position. These all sounded fantastic, and from the day I bought it I never wanted to change them, so they're going to stay in there for as long as possible, if not forever. There's something I spotted that's quite strange and fairly endearing about the pickups in this guitar. And I noticed it when I was playing through particular amps or certain sound settings I was using. It has some really rather resonant harmonics sometimes on certain notes, on certain strings, that just want to leap out with little to no encouragement. to say, whether you love it or you loathe it, I'm a fan of the big 70s headstock design. I think that's just a long-standing feeling that I have from years ago when I'd see Hendrix use a bunch of Strats with that headstock design. It just appealed to me. But there were a few things that I wanted to change. First off, the bridge. Now, in a couple of my other videos, I've identified that I'm a fan of using these Graphtec saddles. They call them string savers, and that's for a reason. As they rightfully advertise, they do dramatically reduce string breakage, and because I use Elixirs, the long life anti-rust variants, they're quite expensive. So if you're breaking them gig after gig or rehearsal after rehearsal, it becomes quite a costly affair, and I learned the hard way. So I looked for an alternative to fix that issue, and Graphtec pulled through for me. But for those of you that are the keen-eyed, you'll notice that's not the only difference about this bridge. This is actually a bridge by a company called Super V, and it's the Blade Runner model. The people at Super V have cleverly designed this bridge to retrofit into pretty much any Stratocaster body you could think of. It works on a sort of blade pivot design, where one section of the bridge is tightly screwed and anchored to the body, and the other part is attached to the other side of the blade and flexes as you move the trem. So along with the support from the springs on the underside of the body as usual, you get a really nice smooth motion. And that smooth motion, because of the blade design, returns to pitch very well. All of this clever design, in addition to being able to adjust the tension on the tremolo arm for a nice smooth action, really made me a big fan of this product. And after seeing a bunch of really positive video reviews, I immediately bought one and fitted it to my Strat with little to no bother. And it's been in there ever since. The next crucial part in upping my Strat's playability was fitting a new nut. So again, I referred to my previous experiences with my other guitars of using Graphtec nuts. Their self-lubricating design feature makes it incredibly useful for having strings glide through the nut slots and keeping the guitar in tune throughout pretty vigorous tremolo use, as I will demo. The next point of the guitar I wanted looking at was the string trees. These are actually just pretty cheap replacement roller string trees that could fit to most guitars. Again, I just wanted to have as smooth a motion as possible at any points of friction on the guitar. The last change I fitted to the guitar were these locking tuners. Now let me be clear, this wasn't so much to do with tuning stability, to be honest with you. It was actually more of a time thing. Because I used this guitar so much out on my gigs and so often, string changes were becoming a bit more regular, as they are for professional guitarists, and I needed something to speed the process up. So it made sense to have a locking tuner where I could just pull through the string as tight as I could, lock it, cut off the excess, tune it up real fast, and away I go. And as Fender supplied them anyway, I thought I may as well fit the guitar with the real deal Fender branded locking tuners. The only other thing I can think of that I've changed about this guitar is actually just sanding off the worst of the gloss finish from the back of the neck. The gloss finish for me tends to stick to the back of my hand after a heavy night of playing, and it kind of limits maneuverability when you've got places to be, as it were. So I sanded it back to a point, not all the way to bare wood, but to a point where it kind of felt more like a satin finish, which is what a lot of modern contemporary guitar designs use these days. A brief little overview of the electronics. It's got a standard 5-way switch, wired as you would expect. The interesting little part to this though is the S1 switch, which is not common for many of the Mexican models that Fender produce. All this does is split this humbucker at the back here to the rear coil, so it becomes a single coil pickup, essentially. So if I really want to, not that I do that often because it's the whole reason I wanted a humbucker in my Strat, but if I really wanted to, I could get a single coil bridge pickup sound. So, I've told you all about the guitar that I would grab in a burning building situation, but what about you? Why don't you guys leave a comment below and tell me which guitar that you would save if your home was hypothetically on fire. And with that, we have reached the end of this particular video. If you enjoyed yourselves, please give it a like and subscribe down below so you can catch any videos like this plus any of the other content that I'm putting out that you will no doubt enjoy. And I'd just like to remind you all at this point that I'm still taking online one-on-one guitar tuition bookings, so you can get in touch with me about that on my socials, which I've linked as ever in the description below. Until the next one guys, stay safe out there, stay positive and stay musical.